studied first. It was the church. Can anybody help close the first one? The church at Ephesus, was that correct?
That's correct.
And the second one was the church at Smyrna, is that right? And the next one was Pergamum, that was last week. And this week is Thyatira, if that's pronounced correctly. And it is entitled, the lesson this week, Strong in Purity. Those two words together aren't normally found together, but strong in purity. And I think we'll figure out what that means in a few minutes. But the church that God desires would be one that is strong in purity. The point is, purity in all things impacts your service for Christ. Well, I'll kind of copy what the commentator and the teacher's commentary and the student commentary has to say, and that there are warnings. Most warnings catch our attention. If there was a sign that said bridge out ahead, that would catch our attention. We'd slow down for sure and start looking for where that bridge is out. If the doctor says to us, quit smoking or you'll die, we'd probably listen to that and at least try to quit. If a trooper said to us, quit speeding, this is a warning, next time you're going to get a ticket, we might even pay attention to that. And perhaps the seriousness to which we accept a warning and change our actions is dependent upon the person who issues the warning, right? Or the situation involved in that warning. Well, in the focal passage for today's lesson, the warning comes from God. Jesus warns the church at Thyatira to change. It's a warning. If you don't, there's going to be consequences. So we often listen. I hope when we see the warning from God, we listen. I remember that we've been to Honduras several times as an association. Started as an association going when Brother Wayne was the director of missions, and that's continued. And I remember about the last time Wayne went, we built some Sunday school rooms up on the mountain there going toward San Marcos de Colón. And I can't remember the name of the little area, but it was a church out there up on the mountain. And on the way up there was a part of the highway that had absolutely fallen in and gone down the cliff. So, I mean, a space as big maybe as where that area is out in front of us right there. It was just had disappeared off the side of the mountain. And so if you drove over here, you could drive by on this side of the yellow line and look at it and see it. But coming that other direction, you'd have to come over into this lane and drive around it. And it was found right after you came around a curve, you know. The only warning for that was a red piece of cloth hanging from a limb on the side of the road on both ends. That was it. Just a red cloth that was hanging off of the side of the road. Now, not in the road. And Wayne and I, as we drove up there, talked about what kind of warning there might be in the United States for that. They closed the road was the first thing we said. They would close that road. We wouldn't even be able to go down that road. But should they leave it open, there would be something 2 miles ahead, flashing lights, warning, you know, there's going to be a place up ahead, y'all, that the road has collapsed, you know. And they'd have, you know, Richard standing out there with a flag waving at you as you came by.
Still speed by me.
They still would.
Bunch of cones.
There'd be cones everywhere. Cones everywhere. Warning. So sometimes there aren't warnings, I guess is what I'm saying. But here there is a warning, clearly. And so let's look at that warning, because I think, myself, if it appears in the Bible and it's a warning, and it's a warning to the church at Thyatira, if Jesus wanted that in the Bible, it's intended for us as well. It's a warning for us. Every one of these 7 letters are a warning to us and a instruction to us or education to us as to what God wants the church to be. And so I think it's worth and worthy of our attention here this morning and our study. Thyatira, just like the other three that we studied, was a bustling city of business and trade. It was inland and different than than what we have been studying. The other, two of the ones that we studied were on the coast. One was just inland from the coast, but this one was 50 miles inland from the Aegean Sea. It was southeast a little bit of Pergamum, but almost directly east of Smyrna, if you look at the map. And now, I guess we went up the coast to the top, and now we're descending down to the churches as we go now. And so that the next one that we study will be just south of Thyatira. But it was a center of the purple cloth trade, so of dyeing cloth, but especially purple cloth. I ordered a Bible from the Christian bookstore or something like that's called. I've ordered a couple of Bibles from there before, but this one I thought it was a real deal, and so I ordered a Bible. And when it came in, it's as purple as anything I've ever seen, and it's just not one I'm going to bring probably to church. And so I thought today I may give that to my granddaughter, but it looks more like what she would like. But purple is a beautiful color, isn't it? And one that we like. Dresden, it's one of the colors of the iris, but it's also a color of royalty, purple, and so a very important color. But it was also a center of manufacturing, and there were a lot of guilds there, G-U-I-L-D-S, like unions or guilds, and there were guilds for wool workers and leather workers and tanners and potters and bakers, slave dealers even, but bronze smiths, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the famous people from Thyatira that we met in the scriptures earlier was the woman Lydia. Lydia, you remember she was a dealer in purple? You remember that about her, the purple cloth? And she met Paul and Silas in Philippi, but it says in Acts that she was from Thyatira. Perhaps her name was not Lydia, because Lydia was the region that Thyatira was found in, and sometimes people referred to by where they came from. But still, Lydia in the scriptures was from Thyatira, and she was Paul's first convert in Asia Minor. So an important person, I'd say, for his morale. I talked to Josh a lot, and he's in the insurance business, and his business is based on commissions, and you can get depressed if your business is based on commissions, if you talk to people and they don't want to buy your product, so, but you have to talk to 20 to get 2, it seems like to me, and that's how it turns out, even for us, isn't it, as Christians, or at least that's what we need to expect. Not everybody's going to accept Christ as their Savior. And here's Paul, who was Jewish, going into a Gentile area of the world and trying to spread the gospel. And I can only imagine how difficult it was for those early missionaries to get a convert. And Lydia was his first, and she was from Thyatira. And I imagine, in my imagination, that she went back there and was maybe one of the people who helped start that church in Thyatira, and that the origin of the church comes from Paul's missionary efforts. That's only my imagination, but I have a vivid imagination, and it's good to think about. But here again, let's read at least the start of the letter. Revelation 2:18 and 19. 2:18 and 19. And Jesus says, quote, "Write to the angel of the church in Thyatira." So very similar to what he had said in these other letters. The angel at the church is the messenger of the church, the pastor of the church. Most theologians agree. But he says, thus says the Son of God, the one whose eyes are like a fiery flame and whose feet are like fine bronze. I know your works, your love, faithfulness, service, and endurance. I know that your last works are greater than the first. That is quite a commendation. Now, so let's think about what Jesus is saying to them. First, just like in the other previous letters we've looked at, and now we've looked at over half of these letters, Jesus does not identify himself as Jesus Christ. But here he does say the Son of God, doesn't he? Thus says capital S, Son of capital G, God. One of the reasons theologians think that Jesus referred to himself here in the letter to the church at Thyatira as the Son of God is not only because he is the Son of God, and that is one of his names and one of his descriptions, one of the things he is in reality, but at Thyatira, among the temples to pagan gods that were in Thyatira, was a temple to Apollos, who was the son of Zeus, the king of the little g gods. Okay? And so it might have been something they wanted to hear from Jesus, and that was very important for them to hear. God, Jesus, declared himself to be greater than any god that man had created, any idol that man had created, you see. And so he says, I am the son of the only God. Not like Apollos, some mythical god created by the Greeks, who was the son of some other mythical created god, Zeus, who's supposed to be the king of the gods. And so I think it's important that Jesus here, in these letters, declares himself in his deity and his majesty as the Son of God. And so he then also describes himself as the one whose eyes are like a fiery flame and whose feet are like fine bronze. Well, these eyes, like fiery flames, would symbolize his omniscience, his ability to see all and know all, you see. And then the fiery, the fire emphasizes the reality of his judgment once he sees. His eyes are all seen. The fire in his eyes would symbolize the judgment that is a reality. And then these bronze feet that he describes as having were a reference, perhaps, to the metallurgy manufacturing there in Thyatira. They used the metal to make war paraphernalia, bronze shields and swords and other things they used this metal for, armor, and then they used it in creating and making idols. The bronze was used for making idols. And again, I think Jesus is declaring that he is superior to anything made in Thyatira, okay? And they would have liked the reference, you know? And it's just another example, I think, of Jesus declaring to them, I know who you are. I know y'all. I know you. And I am aware of what you're known for. I'm familiar with you. You know, it's a great comment in his descriptions of himself each time. Until we studied these, I had no idea there were these kind of references to the communities to whom he wrote the letters. And so it's been a great piece of knowledge to be aware that Jesus was declaring his familiarity with them, I think. But again, like in the other three letters we've looked at, he says, I know you. And he says, I know your works. And so, you know, sometimes we do work and nobody acknowledges it. you know. Even in your own home, if you do something, you kind of want your spouse to see it and at least recognize that you did it. And I know Carol doesn't think I recognize the enormous amount of work she does within our home, but I do, and I fail to share that with her, and I should share that more often. But Friday, I took the garbage out early, and I have mentioned that to her about 5 times on Friday. I said, "You notice that garbage is already out? We ain't got to worry about that tonight." She said, "I've seen it." Okay, yes, good job. Well, I wanted some recognition for that, I guess. But anyhow, she continued to give me that. Well, look there. Normally, we'd be getting up right now, right before we go to bed, and getting that garbage out in the middle of the night. But you've already put it out there. Yes, I did. We want somebody to recognize our works, don't we? We want God to know it, really, when we do something. And Jesus says, I know it. I see it. I know your works. And he's proud of their works. He said he had observed them and seen them. He commended their works, their accomplishments, and their spiritual characteristics. But he lauded them for 4 things, didn't he? They're found right there. 4 things. Their love, and their faithfulness, and their service, and their endurance. Those are 4 great things for a church to be known for. They were known for their love. Not every church is known for their love, are they? They may be known for their discipline. They may be known for their missionary efforts. They may be known, but love is one that is really noticeable